Hello everyone, you are listening to Uncomfortable Truths with Euclid Phoenix, where I talk about politics, religion, and other BS that I find interesting. Today for religion, I'm going to talk about various Wiccan traditions and some of the Wiccan views when it comes to deity. The many faces of Wicca, exploring the major traditions within modern witchcraft. When many people hear the word Wicca, they imagine a single religion with a single set of beliefs and practices. In reality, Wicca is a diverse spiritual movement containing numerous traditions, lineages, and approaches to worship, magic, and personal spirituality. Since its public emergence in the mid-20th century, Wicca has grown into a global religious movement. Some practitioners belong to highly structured covens and formal initiatory rituals, while others practice alone as solitary witches. Some traditions emphasize ceremonial magic and lineage, while others focus on personal spiritual exploration and connection with nature. Although most Wiccan traditions share certain core concepts such as reverence for nature, seasonal festivals, magical practice, and the worship of a god and goddess, they differ significantly in their rituals, beliefs, and organizational structures. In this article, we will explore some of the major traditions of Wicca and examine how they have contributed to the evolution of modern witchcraft. The origins of modern Wicca. Modern Wicca is most closely associated with Gerald Gardner, a British civil servant and amateur anthropologist who claimed to have been initiated into a surviving witch tradition in England during the late 1930s. Following the repeal of Britain's anti-witchcraft laws in 1951, Gardner began publishing books describing what he called the old religion. His writings laid the foundation for what would become modern Wicca. Historians continue to debate how much of Gardner's material came from ancient traditions versus modern influences. Most scholars agree that Wicca incorporates elements from ceremonial magic, folklore, pagan mythology, occult traditions, Freemasonry, and 19th century esoteric movements. Regardless of its origins, Gardner's work sparked the creation of multiple Wiccan traditions. Gardnerian Wicca. Gardnerian Wicca is considered the original and most influential Wiccan tradition. Founded by Gerald Gardner in the 1950s and places strong emphasis on initiation, lineage, coven structure, ritual practice. Gardnerians generally believe that valid initiation must be received through an existing lineage tracing back to Gardner himself. Key features include a degree system of initiation, worship of both a goddess and a horn god, ritual circles, seasonal festivals known as sabbats, magical workings. Gardnerian rituals are traditionally oath-bound, meaning initiates do not publicly reveal certain ceremonial details. Because of its emphasis on lineage, Gardnerian Wicca remains one of the more structured forms of modern Wicca. Alexandrian Wicca. Alexanders founded Alexandrian Wicca during the 1960s, often described as a sister tradition to Gardnerian Wicca. Alexandrian Wicca shares many beliefs and practices, but tends to place greater emphasis on ceremonial magic and ritual sophistication. Alexanders was a charismatic and controversial figure who helped popularize Wicca through media appearances. Alexandrian traditions often include formal ritual structures, magical training, initiation lineages, ceremonial symbolism. Today, many Gardnerian and Alexandrian practitioners work closely together, and some covens incorporate the elements from both traditions. Alright, next is Dianic Wicca. Dianic Wicca emerged during the feminist movement of the 1970s. Named after the Roman goddess Diana, this tradition places special emphasis on the divine feminine, women's spirituality, female empowerment. Unlike many other Wiccan traditions, some Dianic groups focus exclusively on the goddess and may not include worship of a male deity. Dianic Wicca often explores themes such as women's history, healing, social justice, spiritual autonomy. Not all Dianic groups are identical, and practices vary considerably among practitioners. Eclectic Wicca. Eclectic Wicca has become one of the most common forms of modern Wiccan practice. Rather than following a specific lineage, eclectic practitioners draw inspiration from multiple sources. An eclectic Wiccan may incorporate Gardnerian rituals, Celtic mythology, Egyptian deities, crystal healing, meditation, or modern magical techniques. This approach emphasizes personal spiritual freedom and individual exploration. Because there is no central authority in Wicca, eclectic practice has become increasingly popular, especially among solitary practitioners. And then there's solitary Wicca. Many Wiccans practice entirely on their own. Solitary Wicca allows individuals to create personal rituals, celebrate seasonal festivals independently, develop individualized spiritual paths. The rise of books, websites, and online communities has made solitary practice more accessible than ever before. Many modern practitioners first encounter Wicca through solitary study before deciding whether to join a coven. Celtic and traditional witchcraft influences. Some practitioners incorporate elements of Celtic spirituality into their Wiccan practice. These traditions may honor deities such as Brigid, Kronos, the Morrigan. Others identify with traditional witchcraft rather than Wicca itself. While traditional witchcraft often shares similarities with Wicca, it may differ significantly in theology, magical philosophy, ritual structure. Many practitioners see Wicca and traditional witchcraft as overlapping but distinct spiritual paths. Seax Wicca. Founded by Raymond Buckland in the 1970s, Seax Wicca sought to create a more open and accessible form of Wicca. Inspired by Anglo-Saxon traditions, Seax Wicca differs from Gardnerian and Alexandrian traditions in several ways. Self-initiation is allowed. Rituals are publicly available. Leadership positions may be elected. This openness helped introduce many newcomers to modern witchcraft. Common beliefs across many Wiccan traditions. Although traditions differ, many Wiccans share several core ideas. These often include reverence for nature. Nature is frequently viewed as sacred and worthy of respect. Seasonal celebrations. Many Wiccans celebrate the Wheel of the Year, which includes 8 seasonal festivals known as Sabbats. Magic. Most traditions practice some form of ritual magic intended to focus intention and spiritual energy. The divine. Many Wiccans honor a god and a goddess, though interpretations vary widely. Personal responsibility. Many practitioners are influenced by the Wiccan Rede, and at harm none, do what you will. Interpretations of this principle differ, but it often serves as an ethical guideline. Criticisms and misconceptions. Wicca has faced criticism from both religious and secular perspectives. Common misconceptions include equating Wicca with Satanism, assuming all Wiccans practice the same way, viewing Wicca as an ancient, unchanged religion. Most Wiccans reject the association with Satanism, noting that Satan is generally not part of Wiccan theology. Scholars also generally agree that modern Wicca is a relatively recent religion, even though it draws inspiration from older myths, symbols, and traditions. Conclusion: Wicca is not a single unified tradition, but rather a diverse spiritual movement containing multiple paths and perspectives, from the lineage-based practices of Gardnerian and Alexandrian Wicca to the personal freedom of eclectic and solitary Wicca. Modern witchcraft often offers a wide variety of approaches to spirituality. Whether viewed as a religion, a magical practice, or a nature spiritual path, Wicca continues to evolve as practitioners adapt ancient symbols and modern ideas to meet contemporary spiritual needs. Understanding these different traditions help reveal that Wicca is far more diverse and far more complex than many people realize. Now we'll go on to the nature of deity in Wicca: monotheism, duotheism, polytheism, and beyond. One of the most fascinating aspects of Wicca is that there is no single universally accepted understanding of deity. Unlike many religions that define God in a specific way, Wicca allows considerable flexibility regarding the nature of the divine. As a result, Wiccans can hold a variety of theological views while still sharing common rituals, festivals, and spiritual practices. Some Wiccans worship a goddess and a god. Others honor many gods and goddesses from different cultures. Some view all deities as aspects of a single divine source, while others see gods as symbols and archetypes rather than literal supernatural beings. This diversity can be confusing to newcomers. In Wicca, is Wicca monotheistic, polytheistic, duotheistic? The answer often yes, depending on the practitioner. In this article, we will explore the major ways Wiccans understand deity and how these different perspectives coexist within modern Wicca. Why Wicca has diverse views of deity. Unlike religions with centralized authorities or official creeds, Wicca has no single governing body that defines doctrine for all practitioners. Most Wiccan traditions emphasize personal spiritual growth, individual exploration, direct connection with the divine, freedom of belief. Because of this flexibility, Wicca developed into a broad spiritual movement rather than a rigid theological system. As Wicca spread throughout the world, practitioners incorporated influences from ancient mythology, ceremonial magic, pagan traditions, psychology, mysticism, modern spirituality. The result is a wide spectrum of beliefs about deity. Duotheism, the goddess and the god. Historically, duotheism has been one of the most common theological models within Wicca. Duotheism refers to belief in two primary divine forces, the goddess, the god. In many Wiccan traditions, these figures represent complementary aspects of reality. The goddess is often associated with fertility, nature, the moon, intuition, birth, transformation. The god is often associated with the sun, wilderness, vitality, projection, the cycle of life and death. Many Wiccans view these deities as equal partners whose interaction sustains the balance of nature. The seasonal myths celebrated during the Wheel of the Year frequently revolve around the relationship between these two divine figures. For many practitioners, the goddess and the god are literal spiritual beings. For others, they serve as symbolic representations of natural forces. Soft polytheism, many faces of the divine. Another common perspective is often called soft polytheism. Under this view, gods and goddesses from various cultures are understood as different expressions of the same underlying divine reality. For example, Athena, Isis, Brigid, Freya may be viewed as different faces of the goddess. Likewise, Cernunnos, Pan, Odin, and Lu may be seen as manifestations of the god. This approach allows Wiccans to work with deities from multiple mythological traditions while maintaining the idea of the underlying divine unity. In this model, the many gods are not entirely separate beings, but rather different masks worn by a larger divine forces. Hard polytheism, the gods as distinct individuals. Some Wiccans take a more traditional polytheistic approach. Hard polytheists believe the gods are separate, individual entities with their own personalities, desires, histories, and identities. Under this view, Athena is Athena, Brigid is Brigid, Odin is Odin. Each deity exists independently rather than being a symbolic aspect of a larger divine force. This perspective often overlaps with Reconstructionist pagan movements that seek to receive specific ancient religious traditions. Hard polytheistic Wiccans may work closely with particular deities and develop devotional relationships with them. Monotheism in Wicca. Although less common, some Wiccans hold views that could be described as monotheistic. These practitioners may believe there is one ultimate divine reality. All gods are expressions of a single source. All spiritual paths ultimately point toward the same divine presence. In this framework, the goddess, the god, the various deities are manifestations of one ultimate sacred reality. This perspective resembles certain forms of Neoplatonism, Hindu philosophy's mystical spirituality. Rather than worshipping many gods, the practitioner sees all divine figures as aspects of a singular sacred source. Pantheism, divinity as the universe itself. Some Wiccans adopt a pantheistic worldview. Pantheism teaches that God is not separate from the universe. Instead, the universe itself is divine. In this perspective, nature is sacred. Existence itself is holy. Divinity permeates everything. The goddess and the god may be understood as symbolic representation of natural processes rather than independent supernatural beings. This view often appeals to practitioners who value ecology, environmental spirituality, and scientific understanding. Pantheism, the divine within and beyond nature. Closely related to pantheism is panentheism. Under panentheism, the divine exists throughout the universe, but also transcends it. The universe exists within a larger spiritual reality. Many modern mystics find this perspective attractive because it balances divine immanence, divine transition. The sacred is present in nature while also extending beyond it. This is kind of the way I view deity. Archetypal, and psychological interpretations. Not all Wiccans believe the gods are literally supernatural beings. Some interpret deity through the lens of psychology, influenced by thinkers such as Carl Jung. These practitioners may view gods and goddesses as archetypes. Archetypes are powerful, symbolic patterns found within the human psyche. For example, the mother goddess may represent nurturing and creation. The horned god may symbolize vitality and instinct. Under this view, rituals become methods of engaging with deep psychological forces rather than communicating with independent spiritual entities. This approach is specifically popular among secular and psychologically oriented practitioners. Agnostic and symbolic Wicca. Some practitioners remain uncertain about the ultimate nature of deity. They may participate in rituals while acknowledging that they do not know whether the gods exist as independent beings. For these Wiccans, the value of spiritual practice lies in personal transformation, connection with nature, community, meaning, and waking. Rather than certainty about metaphysical questions, this reflects the broader flexibility found within modern Wicca. Why theological diversity works in Wicca. To outsiders, these differing views may appear contradictory. How can one religion contain monotheists, duotheists, polytheists, pantheists, symbolic practitioners all at once? Part of the answer lies in Wicca's emphasis on practice over doctrine. Wicca tends to focus more on ritual, seasonal celebrations, magical practice, ethical living, spiritual experience, than on rigid theological definitions. As a result, people with very different beliefs about deity can often participate in similar rituals and festivals. Criticisms of Wiccan theology. Critics sometimes argue that Wicca's flexibility creates confusion. Some claim its theology lacks consistency. Contradictory beliefs cannot all be true. The movement lacks clear doctrinal boundaries. Supporters respond that spiritual reality may be too complex for simple definitions. They argue that different theological models may represent different perspectives on the same mystery. Whether one agrees with this approach often depends on whether one values certainty or exploration in matters of spirituality. Conclusion. One of the defining characteristics of Wicca is the remarkable theological diversity. Within Wicca, practitioners may understand deity as one god, a goddess and god, many gods, archetypes, nature itself, or a mystery beyond human language. Rather than insisting on a single answer, Wicca often encourages individuals to explore the nature of the divine through personal experience, ritual study, and reflection. For some, this flexibility is one of Wicca's greatest strengths. For others, it is one of its greatest challenges. Either way, the diversity of theological perspectives within Wicca reveals that modern witchcraft is far more complex and philosophically rich than many people realize. That's it for today on religion. Please visit my website below in the notes, and if you want, you can support me on Patreon. Be sure to sign up for my newsletter. Have an awesome day.